Welcome to ShowReal, where I ramble about shows and give my recommendation. I'm Octavia, and this episode is about Parallax. The premise of Parallax is a young boy from a small, boring fictional Australian town of Werribee longs for adventure before discovering there are portals to parallel universes called the Parallax, where he doesn't exist, but his mother leads a secret life. He teams up with his long-lost sister to save from the big bad Betty. Parallax is an Australian kids show created by Paul Barron that ran for one season in 2004, 26 episodes total. It was one of the first major roles for Gillian Alexie, who would go on to feature in McLeod's Daughters, Damages, and The Outsiders. Parallax is my guilty pleasure show. I watched it as a kid and so have a lot of nostalgia for it. It's short, which makes it very easy to binge. It's full of mystery and intrigue and has one of the most blatant but never addressed lesbian relationships in any children's show ever. If this show sounds like something you would enjoy and you would like to go into it spoiler-free, you can watch all the episodes on YouTube. If you, like me, don't believe spoilers inherently ruin the substance of a show, feel free to check it out after if you're still interested. To give a bit more detail, Parallax follows Ben Johnson as our protagonist, who is bored with his small-town life. He's a typical protagonist. He's arrogant, self-centered, and pretty impulsive. His big fatal flaw is that he's afraid of the ocean. He's joined by his best friend Francis, a laid-back surfer dude, who makes it his business to not get messed up in Ben's trouble. Ben is looking for adventure, which is of course exactly when adventure comes. He decides he's going to catch a wearing-up thief, only to discover that it's his best friend Francis, but that doesn't fit Francis's character. As it turns out, this is not the Francis of Ben's world. Trying to figure out what's going on, Ben follows Francis 2.0 through a portal and into a parallel world. This world is the Blue World, which is known for its rule-making and rule-following. It's essentially a police state world. This is where he meets his long-lost sister Catherine and discovers that he doesn't exist in this version of Werribee, even though everyone else seems to have a doppelganger. Ben and Catherine discover that they are guardians of the Parallax from their mother, Veronica, and that they need to keep it safe from those who wish to tamper with it. To go along with this, the two siblings are swarmed with weird purple bugs and creatures whenever they're in the same world. While there are some fun shenanigans with locals messing around with the Parallax, we are eventually introduced to the big bad Betty, their mother's twin sister, who wants to create a peaceful world in the Parallax by blandishing the aberrants in each world. Essentially, eugenics and genocide for peace. Her point of view almost convinces Catherine, who is very rule-oriented and logic-driven and can understand Betty's goal, but in the end, Catherine beats Betty at her own game of wits in a very Princess Bride-style fashion. The team then undo the blandishing Betty caused, and all is right in the Parallax, except that by undoing the blandishing, Betty is also back. Thus, a potential way to continue the series that never really eventuated. Although the show deals in the idea of parallel worlds, we only get to see a handful of them. We start in the Red World, the normal world where Ben is from. From there, we see Catherine's rule-obsessed Blue World, the Yellow Hippie World, the Silver Techno World, and the Green Forest World. We also get brief glimpses into other worlds, such as the Orange Desert World, that's all sand from Betty's destructive rap. We also see the Purple Garden World, a completely blandish world living in blissful peace. And we also see a brown world and a swamp world that Ben wanders into. But that's about it.
Either that or it's just old-fashioned magic.
Who knows what's out there? I mean, if there's at least 5 different worlds, then why not 100? Or 1,000,000?
Or a squillion.
What's after squillion? A mega godzillion.
The story of Parallax is extremely cheesy and forgettable. It's basically magical chosen ones save the universe story. But what really makes Parallax stand out is the characters and how they interact with each other. It's also an interesting commentary on the idea of self and what factors influence who you are. Most of my favourite scenes involve characters interacting with other versions of themselves. So let's talk about the characters, skipping Ben. While Ben is not a bad main character, and he does have some charm, he is undoubtedly the worst character in the show, and such is the curse of being the main male protagonist. Our second protagonist is Catherine Raddick, Ben's uptight sister who keeps getting caught up in all the drama unwillingly. Catherine works largely through logic and begins the series with the belief that fun is a distraction.
Music.
Pleasant, but
Of no practical benefit.
what is your point?
If it is possible, I think you might be even more logical than ever.
If I was that logical, I wouldn't be sitting here trying to help you pass your civics exam.
She's fiercely protective of her father, who's a struggling scatterbrained artist, and is still heartbroken about Veronica leaving. Catherine is also resentful towards her mother for leaving. Catherine has the most interesting character arc over the entire show, in my opinion. She initially works as the logic balance against Ben's chaotic first idea, best idea attitude, and the dynamic is kind of a equally balanced fight for superiority. She tries her best to keep Ben's nonsense out of her life, but ultimately decides to work as a team. She reconnects with Veronica and learns that although her mother did have logical reasons to leave, she also did not just straight up abandon her. There's a moment where Betty almost convinces her into her evil plan, but she snapped out of it. She's usually seen with her best friend Mel from the Blue World, and Catherine also spends a lot of time with Mundi, who's from the Green Forest World, and they have a very close and very special dynamic. It's just gals being pals, just buds giving hugs. Veronica is a bit of a mysterious character. She plays the typical average mother well, to the point where Ben is completely blown away when he discovers her secret identity. We know almost nothing about her past, other than that she has a twin sister and was with Stefan in the Blue World and Jeremy in the Red World. According to the official Parallax website, which is no longer active, Stefan found Veronica and they had a strong supernatural bond. Not much to go on there. She's obviously very family-oriented and even teaches Ben and Catherine lessons about the Parallax in a very motherly manner. She's almost this omnipresent being, watching over her kids and protecting the Parallax. She even sacrifices herself to protect her kids and becomes Betty's prisoner. Her relationship with Stefan and Jeremy is also hugely interesting, as she clearly loves both of them. Towards the end of the show, there's almost a hint that this could result in a polyamorous relationship, but that's just speculation. She also makes really bad pots, which turns out to be her attempt at mapping the Parallax. Betty is a bit of a one-note character. She desires to make each world in the Parallax the perfect world. In terms of villains, she doesn't have a whole lot of depth, but it's very easy to see her perspective. She also doesn't show up in any meaningful way until about halfway through the series, episode 11, which shifts the show from a kid's adventure to a life or death situation pretty quickly. She's frequently joined by a kid in sunglasses who's never given a name and just acts as her henchman. She doesn't appear to have any emotional connection to anyone, particularly not family, though it is hinted that she might have had a romantic relationship with Otto, who's a retired guardian, and whose entire world was destroyed by Betty. Sounds like a bad breakup. Otto is only shown in a few episodes and kind of plays into this weird mystical black man trope. It's a little bit problematic, but he's a genuinely fun, down-to-earth character. Ends up completely reforming the sunglasses guy and comes up with day-saving plans. He even manages to help the group when he's not there. Stefan is an unexpected mystery. He's an absent-minded dreamer artist who has difficulty staying grounded and dealing with real-life issues. He also has no doubles in any parallel world.
Has anyone ever seen another Stefan anywhere?
Which is one of the great unanswered questions of the series. It's brought up, and it's clearly set up to be explored later, but the show doesn't actually go into this at all. The official website is also really vague on the issue, saying that Stefan has similar blood to Guardians and is a kindred spirit, but not outright saying what he is or how he's a kindred spirit. He has a strong connection with Catherine, and his relationship with Ben also comes across as more paternal after the truth is revealed. He's still extremely in love with Veronica, despite the fact that she's been gone for over a decade. She's initially hostile towards Jeremy, and they have what is essentially a pissing contest before conceding to each other's strengths and weaknesses for the kids' benefit. There's also a few heartwarming moments between Stefan and Jeremy. It's really cute.
Is it gone?
No. Spit.
There's not a lot of depth to Jeremy's character. He's a lovable, adorable handyman dad type. The only doppelganger we see of him is in the techno world, where he is a bad seed troublemaker type. I think maybe being a dad did him good. Melinda is an interesting character. In Ben's Red World, she's a popular girl, and this holds true for most other worlds seen. However, in Catherine's Blue World, she's a repressed nerd who wants to reinvent herself and go on spontaneous Parallax adventures. She also comes across as a bit boy crazy, but it's done in a weird way.
Needs structure. Structure requires laws, agreed rules of behaviour that
Boys.
Pardon?
Where do boys fit in?
Although she longs for adventure, she's more of a follower than a leader, and things often don't go too well when she tries to strike out on her own. Catherine also takes it for granted that Mel will just do whatever she asks, and this is addressed really nicely in the series.
What's wrong?
Do this, do that. I'm not some kind of errand girl.
Mel, I'm sorry.
I used a contraction.
What?
You said I'm, not I am.
Mirabile dictu?
Strange or wondrous to relate?
I've been...
You did it again. When all this is finished, you owe me the biggest chocolate milkshake in the whole Parallax.
Deal. Now, can we get back to work?
Francis is a pivotal character and one of the best characters. He kicks off the whole plot and is an interesting study in the self and what makes the self. Through parallel worlds, the differences between Francises is fairly significant. The biggest difference is seen between Ben's red world Francis and the yellow hippie world Francis, which is where the thief Francis is from, and the Francis that we follow through the Parallax. Ben's Francis is really into surfing and impressing girls and just living his best life, but is pretty easily spooked. He refuses to go into the Parallax at all, he doesn't want to mess with it, and is spooked by reading room orbs, to the point where he can't be in the same room as one. The other Francis, however, is a Parallax connoisseur, stumbling into different parallel worlds and being generally rogue. He's essentially Rogue Francis. He also has a great sense of humour and enjoys adventure and chaos. He develops a pretty significant relationship with Una from the techno world, although he very nearly screws it up because apparently one Una is not enough for him. He is also approached by Betty, who first tries to use him as an unknowing spy, and then attempts to blandish him but gets the wrong Francis. He, along with Una, set up a network of Francises across the Parallax to get information quickly about Betty sightings and other investigations. This Francis is a catalyst to all the events in the show, and he's just really interesting, really funny guy.
So I followed the footprints. One male set, two female sets. They lead down the path and right up to the oval.
And then?
Then I lose them on the wet grass.
Great.
But then I find them again. Along the towpath, over the bridge and...
Yeah, go on.
What are you doing here?
Martin problems?
You too.
Me too.
Can I finish?
Keep you cool.
Along the towpath, over the bridge and... to Tiffany's.
Tiffany stole your top.
No, not Tiffany. Martin. She dumped him right in it. He was big noting himself to Melinda again. Melinda. Covering her up from the rain.
Una and Due are a package deal, especially in the techno world. Other worlds don't give much time to their characters because they clearly recognise that the techno world Una and Due are the superior ones. Una is extremely smart and difficult to impress, and she quickly falls for the rogue Francis, who can show her a whole new world. Due often acts as Una's translator for the slang that she makes up, as well as a back and forth of her inner dialogue. Their connection gives Una an emotional anchor that prevents her from coming across as a total bitch. Due is not completely without her own character, as she's seen as pretty sassy, but also very vulnerable and afraid of storms. She also accidentally starts up her own trade business by over-preparing for some Parallax adventures. Fun fact, the actors that portray Una and Due, Rebecca and Guinevere McCarthy, are siblings in real life, which is probably why their connection feels so genuine. At one point, Una directly confronts a parallel version of herself to assert her dominance as the ultimate Una.
Have you seen Francis? You're me. Not even on your best day, girl.
Una, also known as Fortuna in other worlds, tends to be friends with Mel and Tiffany. The Una from Ben's world is also seen to have a passing interest in Francis from Ben's world, but it doesn't really go anywhere. It's really just used to further justify the bond between Rogue Francis and Techno Una. Mundi, my favourite character, is the most intriguing and unresolved character in the entire series. She's seen first in the forest world, helping Ben escape the purple animals known as Parallax, which have overrun the forest world. Mundi also helps Catherine have fun and learn more about herself, and the two become very close. Mundi also has really interesting abilities. She's able to sense danger in a supernatural capacity and also has a sense of smell that really can only be described as supernatural. She's kind of like a household pet, predicting earthquakes and all that.
It was good being back. But Dad has to ship out the paintings he sold at the exhibition, and I said I'd help him load up.
Storm.
What?
Storm coming, you better get going.
How do you know? You can smell it.
Sure.
How do you do that?
Always could, since I was little.
Quite a talent.
Yeah, different weather has different smells. Like animals, I can smell Parallax a mile off.
Yeah? What about people?
No problem. They smell their attitudes and thoughts.
Huh. Wish I could do that. Unless I happen to be anywhere near Martin Dunkley. Oh, yuck.
You could always wear a gas mask.
Yeah, I'd have to. Hey, me, what do I smell like?
Like someone who's got to go or they're going to get wet.
Okay.
Come back soon. Told you.
Spooky.
We also never see any other Mundis in any other worlds. And she has a lot of knowledge about Otto, who is a retired guardian. It sort of came across to me as if Otto was training her about the Parallax, but never actually finished it. None of the other characters mention that there are no other Mundi seen in other worlds, but also nobody brings up the fact that Stefan is not seen in other worlds until towards the end of the series either. So I'm not sure whether this was done on purpose as a setup, or whether they just forgot to show Mundis in other worlds. And I'll never know, and this will haunt me forever. The characters that have doubles in other universes tend to have one primary version that we follow. For example, we follow Mel from the Blue World the most, although we see that she is different from the Mels in other worlds pretty dramatically. Similarly, we also follow Francis from the Yellow Hippie World. The Una and Due we focus on are from the Techno World. The only real deviation from this are the Martins. It is widely accepted by all the characters aware of the Parallax that any Martin is a scumbag. Two of the Martins at one point even team up for their own gain and to get revenge when they discover the Parallax is real. And Betty replaces her henchboy with 4 Martins. But there's an exception to this rule, and the exception is Forest World Martin. Although he is still a Martin and has Martin characteristics, he comes across as more of a social outcast than a self-serving scumbag. He's also seen to enjoy hanging out with Ben and shows some romantic interest in both Mundi and Catherine simply because they were nice to him.
I was looking for Mundi.
She's not here. She's out in the forest with her dad.
Oh,
You could always go and find her.
I'm not really into forests. I think they're hugely overrated.
But you like Mundi even though she's into forests?
Sure, but, well, Mundi's not like the others. They laugh and call me Townie. Mundi never does. You want to come to town with me?
I've had kind of a busy day. Some other time, perhaps?
Oh, sure. You could come and check out my mother's wood chipping mill.
Wood chipping? Why am I not surprised?
Mum has the biggest mill around. 500 logs per week, 400,000 tons of chips a year. We export to 10 countries, and...
It's nice to have you around, Martin. Don't make me wish we only had 999 flowers.
But Martin, they're lesbians. They're lesbians, Martin. Oh, poor Martin. He's seen as visibly uncomfortable being around the other Martins, not understanding their inherently bitter nature, because he doesn't really have it. Although Forrest Martin does eventually sell Catherine and Ben out, he holds out until he is directly threatened by Betty, and even then he races to warn them that she's coming. This Martin is a good Martin, even though he still doesn't fit into the world. Maybe it's all the fresh air from those trees in the forest world that's doing that Martin good. Another fun fact, the actor who plays Martin, Casimir Sass, is the son of the actor who portrays Stefan, Igor Sass. His sister Frances Sass is Mel in the show too. On rewatch, it always kind of skeeves me out watching Martin flirt with Mel knowing that the two actors are related. We also follow the Tiffany from Ben's Red world, who's Martin's ditzy on-again, off-again girlfriend, who accidentally stumbles into the plot again and again by mindlessly following other characters around. She's fun to watch.
It's just like a shampoo commercial.
You also see Mrs. Dawes, who is an important character in terms of the plot. She's essentially the caretaker of the portals in each universe, and she's always seen with chickens or chicken-related stuff. Food plays an interesting role in the show. It's sometimes used as a sign of rebellion, like Mel longing for a milkshake, as they're not allowed in her rule-riddled world. It's also seen as a method of flirting, often suggested by Martin, or seen in Francis and Una's relationship. Food is also used as an emotional stabilizer and as something that ground characters when they're in overwhelming situations. It's also used as a way to connect or express familiarity. Francis is able to tell that Betty is pretending to be Veronica as she gives him an apple, but the real Veronica would know that Francis hates apples. It also allows Ben to connect to Stefan after discovering he's his real father, as they both enjoy the same sort of sandwich. Ben and Otto also connect over scrambled eggs. Food is a weird but significant part of the show. There are also a lot of unresolved mysteries in the Parallax universe, and they will never be answered since the show only existed for one season 15 years ago, and there is no other fan base other than this vague nostalgia that Australians feel. So, among the mysteries, the obvious are the Stefan mystery and the Mundi mystery. Are they guardians? Are they some sort of weird subspecies of guardians? Who knows? Connected to the Stefan mystery is the genetics of guardian blood, although this is really more of a nitpick. See, Veronica and Betty are both explained to have 25% guardian blood, as the guardian bloodline has been diluted by humans. However, through Stefan, Catherine and Ben are both able to be 50% guardian and total 100% when combined, which is how Betty can track them, and which is why they are able to travel to the reading room via the orb. But that genetics doesn't really work out. Assuming Stefan is the same as Veronica, 25% guardian, the combined guardianness is 50%. But genetically speaking, offspring only receive half of your genetic information, so that's 12.5% guardian each, and equals 25% guardian for each kid. But maybe it's not direct inheritance going on, maybe it's a dominant recessive gene trait. Maybe there's some weird heterosis going on. It's probably likely that the writers didn't think about any of this. Either way, the weird genetics annoys me, and it doesn't make any sense.
See? Clearly, the double helix of DNA.
Clearly.
Deoxyribonucleic acid.
Even clearer.
There's also the fact that Forest Wallet is overrun with Parallax. It's my personal opinion that the Parallax are related to Otto, as they were sent by Betty, and before Catherine and Ben, Otto was the last known Parallax guardian. It may also be related to Mundi, but who really knows? Also, who is this kid in sunglasses? Is he related to Betty? If yes, how? Is he a guardian? If not, why is he working for her? Why did Otto get him to switch sides? How did he do that? Is he Betty and Otto's son? Who is this kid? I want to know who this kid is. Who is he? But anyway, that's my thoughts on Parallax. Is it a stupid show? Yes. But I love it, and I think it deserves some more attention. It may not be the most well-crafted media in the world, but it has some subtle gay and poly representation while also being fun and short and easy to binge. It has a more satisfying plot and character arcs than most TV shows these days, and even though there are some really stupid and cheesy parts, it doesn't really pretend to be something it's not. I would recommend the Parallax. This has been ShowReal. Now, go watch it.